When it comes to backcountry shell garments, there is no perfect answer. There's just a spectrum from not waterproof, not wind resistant, and completely breathable, all the way up through extremely waterproof, extremely wind resistant, but you're going to douse yourself from the inside. So you have to choose where you're going to fall on that continuum for your own individual body type and also for the environment that you're in. Our Windcheater garment is just about perfect for 90% of the conditions that I find myself in. This garment was originally designed by First Spear, our manufacturing partner, and when I saw it, I thought, man, that looks just like a garment that I had designed with a couple changes, and First Spear offered us the opportunity to carry the Windcheater with our alteration. So anyway, back to the continuum. Basically, this is a 300 denier cordura. So it's an uncoated, extremely tough garment, but it's light and thin. It has some DWR properties. In fact, just demonstrate that right there. You know, water beads up and rolls off pretty well. Eventually it's going to wet out, but in really light precip it tends to shed the water. At the same time, it has tremendous properties as far as ventilation is concerned. In addition to the natural breathability of the fabric, it also has great mechanical venting in the form of pit zips, generous pit zips, that really can let you expel sweat and expel heat while still protecting yourself from wind and light moisture. The hood is a generous hood that will go over a helmet. In addition to this, it has adjustability, depth adjustability, and it also has adjustability as far as the perimeter is concerned. Nice long arms, Velcro closure cuffs. Often I leave these open myself for additional mechanical ventilation. It has a great tail with a lot of length to it, and like I said, our cargo Napoleons. These are huge cargo pockets, Napoleon style, that are high enough to clear a pack's waist belt, and behind that there's hand warmer pockets. So while wearing a pack, you have full access to your pockets. Even with a kit bag, you can get up underneath it and get into these, and of course the hand warmers always work. So I do carry a waterproof breathable shell. Most of the time, in any kind of inclement conditions, I'm going to be wearing this garment. If the wind's blowing, you'll see me wearing this up to 60 degrees, maybe even more if I'm kind of static. In the winter, if I'm moving, you're going to see me wearing exactly the same garment over a little bit of a heavier base layer, but elsewise kind of the same. It's cold enough out that I'm needing to wear an overmitt to prevent some contact frostbite off of my carbine here. At these temperatures, the fur ruff really comes into play. A lot of folks think in terms of this just being warmth. And of course it is warm like wearing a scarf. But the other huge factor that a real fur ruff will get you is protecting your lungs. What it ends up doing is creating a little microclimate out in front of your mouth, and so you can breathe heavily without injuring your lungs. If you've ever been out for a stiff hike or a mountain bike or a run in any temperature below about 20 degrees, you've ended up coughing half the morning. That's onset pneumonia in your lungs. If you're going to be out there for any extended period of time, you've got to protect your lungs, and a fur ruff does a great job. At the same time, if you end up in a driving blizzard, it'll actually keep the snow out of your eyes. You know, there's modern ways of handling that, such as goggles, but a fur ruff will go a long ways. So that's why we made it so that our Windcheater here would take a fur ruff, an optional fur ruff. Now you might say, well how can that Windcheater be warm enough in those temperatures where you're wearing mittens? The bottom line is that for most folks, if they're moving and generating heat, they don't need much in the way of insulation during the winter. Of course, if I were to stop here much longer, I'd be throwing on a mountain serape over all of this, and I'd still have the use of my fur ruff. But for actually moving and conserving just enough heat without icing up next to my body, the Windcheater makes a fantastic winter outer shell. So that's it, the Hill People Gear Windcheater, a garment for all seasons, and it's so versatile and comfortable that you'll find yourself wearing it for more than just backcountry use.